Hey guys, I'm doing a slightly different kind of review today, something a little different. Don't worry, not all my reviews are going to be like this, I just wanted to try something new. So here we go, voiceover review with beautiful nature to look at. Why am I having you look at nature? Because today's book is called Uprooted, and it's kind of about nature, kind of, loosely. There's a forest in it, and that forest is dangerous. And not even for the reason that forests are usually dangerous. Quick, let's read the synopsis. Agnieszka loves her valley home, her quiet village, the forest, and the bright shining river. But the corrupt wood stands on the border, full of malevolent power, and its shadow lies over her life. Her people rely on the cold, driven wizard known only as the Dragon to keep its power at bay. But he demands a terrible price for his help. One young woman handed over to serve him for 10 years, a fate almost as terrible as falling into the wood. The next choosing is fast approaching, and Agnieszka is afraid. She knows, everyone knows, that the dragon will take Kasia, beautiful, graceful, brave Kasia, all the things Agnieszka isn't, and her dearest friend in the world. And there's no way to save her. But Agnieszka fears the wrong things, for the dragon comes and it is not Kasia he will choose. So I gave Uprooted a solid 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was really good. I had a few problems with it, which I'll tell you about later. I can definitely see why this would be some people's 5 stars. But like I said, I really enjoyed it, but some parts gave me some pause. So we're going to talk about all of that in this crazy freaky review that we're doing. Please be forgiving of airplane noises you might be hearing. Right now, this time in the summer is a time for an event called EAA, which is all about airplanes flying in from all over the world. It's a giant airplane convention. So pretty much there's no escaping the sound of airplanes at all. Okay, so let's talk about the stuff that I liked about Uprooted. First of all, I really liked our lead character, Agnieszka. She's pretty badass, she's sassy, she doesn't take shit. Like, even when shit happens to her, she will talk back, she will sass you, she will stand up for herself. Not to the point where it's not believable, but definitely to a point where I was like, I was braced to be frustrated with her because she was going to be a doormat, and then she wasn't, and I was like, yes, thank you. There was a female friendship in this book that I quite enjoyed. It wasn't perfect, but you don't often get to see female friendships in a lot of books, so I was really glad that that was there. This book kind of had a love story romance going on, but it didn't take over the book or the story, and I like a romance when it's part of a larger story, which it definitely was in the case of Uprooted. There was a lot more going on in this story besides the romance between Agnieszka and the dragon. Yeah, I know that might be considered a little bit of a spoiler, but if you can't figure out that that's where the story is going, you just don't story very often, do you? I listened to the recorded book version, and I thought it was pretty excellent. The woman reading the book had an accent that was fitting for the story, and it was really great listening to her. The only thing that was a little bit weird is the way that she pronounced paused. She said it posed because of her accent, and I delightfully kept imagining all of these characters posing dramatically all the time, because it actually fit some of them pretty well. There is a sex scene in this book, but it didn't overstay its welcome, and it was super consensual, and I really liked that. So often with characters that kind of end up with the dynamic that you have with Agnieszka and the dragon, the sex scene will come off as questionably consensual, if not downright non-consensual on one of the characters' parts. But this one, they were both really into it, and they were both doing things for each other's pleasure, and it was really nice to see that. I like that this story is a standalone. It doesn't have a whole bunch of sequels. You basically get beginning, middle, end right away. There are some problems that I do have with this story structure, but the fact that it stands alone is so refreshing. The magic system, while not very well fleshed out, was interesting to me, and I'm not one of those people who needs to fully understand a magic system or anything like that for me to enjoy it. I can be fine with vagueness as long as I have an idea of how the magic system does work, at least loosely, and I liked the way that it was described and the different types of magic that all of the mages had, so it was pretty cool in my book. And of course you've got your Beauty and the Beast elements, which I enjoy because Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite fairy tales and I absolutely love it. And finally, the main reason that I really enjoyed this book was the villain. The villain is almost reminiscent of a villain from a Stephen King book because it is so omnipotent and it is so menacing and mysterious of a threat, at least until the end where it gets revealed, again, kind of like Stephen King. But the overall threat and the overall villain of this story is one of the coolest, and I really enjoyed it. And it was really menacing and freaked, it freaked me out a little bit. It made me, I will not look at trees the same way again, let me just say that. So those were all of the things that I liked about Uprooted. Now let's talk about some of the stuff that I maybe had some problems with. Okay, right off, we have to talk about characters because you guys know that with me, characters maketh the book. And unfortunately, while I enjoyed Agnieszka, none of the characters, even her, really completely gripped me. I never felt like I got to know them terribly well. They were all very surface. So I really felt like I wanted to get to know these characters a lot more. I wanted the nitty-gritty. I wanted them to have what I would call a Breakfast Club moment where you sit down and you find out more about these people, and you never really do. And that made me sad because I wanted to know more about them and I wanted to relate to them more strongly. Another really big problem I had with this book, and it almost turned me off of it because it comes near the beginning, there is an attempted rape scene in this book that is 100% unnecessary. Like, I was like waiting, I was like, okay, why is this rape scene, or this attempted rape scene in this book? It must have something to do with something. And it was trying to inform a character, but as we talked about in my video about writing sexual assault, please go watch it if you're interested. Links in the doobly-doo. Using rape as a shorthand to get across that a character might be bad is really sloppy and really lazy, and this attempted rape scene is completely, in my opinion, 100% unnecessary. It could have left it out and the book would have gone on perfectly fine without it. Fortunately, it is near the beginning, and so it's done, it's over, and you can go on to enjoying the rest of the book. But boy, is that abrupt and not needed. Kind of going along with that is the way that this author writes her characters. She likes to show and not tell you things about the characters, but she really only ever shows you like two things. She'll show you a way that the character is bad and a way that the character is good. She'll use something like an attempted rape scene to show you how the character is bad, and then later she'll show you a side of the character that is good. In what I feel like is an attempt to create complex characters, but instead you just have a character who has like two traits and nothing else. And that kind of bothered me after a little while, after I figured out it was happening with every single character pretty much, where you're like, okay, this character does this bad thing, but this good thing, and so therefore I can like them because they're quote-unquote complex. I said there was a female friendship in this book, and there is, but I really wish that Agnieszka had spent more time with her best friend doing best friend things. They never even really sit down and talk about all the stuff that's been happening to them. While there is a pretty good girl-girl friendship in this, there are like no male-female friendships in this book. I think the author was trying desperately to avoid a love triangle, and as such, Agnieszka like doesn't trust any of the other men she encounters. And that kind of annoyed me because I am a big fan of male-female friendships as well. And then there was of course Agnieszka and the dragon and their relationship, and to be honest with you, I don't ship it. I just didn't see their romance all that much. They felt like they would be good partners, good friends, good student-teacher relationship, but the romance really fell flat for me for whatever reason. That didn't destroy my enjoyment of this book at all, and the romance, like I said, was more of a subplot, so really it didn't ruin anything. I just didn't ship it. Real quick, let's talk a little bit more about the magic in this world. Like I said, it wasn't the best explained, but I didn't mind that. It was a lot more sensory and a lot more the way that the characters were experiencing the magic than the magic being explained to me, and I was fine with that. However, the characters do get worn out by using magic, and yet they all still manage to use that magic when it comes down to crunch time. That's kind of a thing that always bothers me in books in general, when a character is just so beat down and we're told that they're so beat down and they're so tired, and then something bad happens and they pull out these magical extra reserves of energy we didn't know they had. That's just not believable to me. And in this case, it made the characters feel really invincible, like I never had to be afraid because they were always going to be able to pull out more magic whenever they needed it. Also, the magic in this world is a little bit too convenient at times. Especially Agnieszka's magic. It really does whatever she needs it to do, and she always finds out how to do whatever she needs the magic to do whenever she needs it. Like at a certain point in the story, she is told that she cannot communicate over great distances magically. It's impossible in their world except for with these certain artifacts. And I thought that maybe she was going to find one of those artifacts. But no, she just goes off and does her own thing, and in a few minutes later, she's communicating over a great distance with magic like it ain't no thing. And I'm just like, okay, that was really, really convenient. Deus Ex Magica, that's what I'm calling it. One final problem that I did have with this book was that it had two climaxes. One really intense, built-up climax where all of the things from the book seemed like they were coming together and this was going to be it, and the bad guys were pushing from every angle, and it was like, yes, this is the climax. And then the characters got through it, and then we had another, second, smaller climax a bit further on. And it really just took the wind out of this book's sails, I felt. If you're going to have like such a big built-up climax, I mean, they did everything. It was like a video game, honestly. They had the sex scene beforehand. They had the bad guys threatening our home. They had the small but plucky heroes having to defend that home and being pushed back like fucking Helm's Deep over here. And then it sort of tapered off, and then there was another smaller climax after that. And I didn't really like it, and I felt like it could have been done a lot better. Otherwise, this book was a little bit meandering, and sometimes the plot would just kind of come to a stop. It wasn't so boring that I would stop reading, but I did spend a little bit of time zoning out from my audiobook and zoning back in to find that I hadn't really missed all that much at certain points. But, like I said, that didn't stop me from listening all the way through this and enjoying it quite a bit. Still, if you're in the mood for a fantasy book that has some flaws, like many fantasy books do, but still has a solid story, an interesting enough cast of characters, and a really menacing villain, then definitely check out Uprooted. And don't forget, guys, if you liked what you heard or saw here today, like, subscribe, yada yada yada, but also remember to share this with your friends, because that is how the friends get told about things, is if you tell them. So please tell them about me, if you had fun. I had fun. And I will see you next time with whatever video happens to be next time. Bye!